Hello friends, I have got some more fun, easy, budget-friendly Christmas crafts to share with you. We're gonna get right to it, but I did wanna also say, make sure you are keeping an eye on my community tab for an announcement coming up in the next week or so that you don't miss out on that. All right, let's get started. For our first project, we are gonna make an ornament, and I have this wood slice. It does have a hole in it already for an ornament. I don't know where this came from, but I know that you can buy them at Hobby Lobby and they are not expensive, especially when everything's 50% off. I have an old stencil in my stash. I believe this one might have been from the Dollar Tree a long time ago, but anything you have will work, and you can also freehand it or print something off of the internet, but I didn't want to freehand it. I normally keep my crafts on my channel simple. Well, I always keep them simple, not a lot of fancy tools, and that is still the case, but I am going to introduce something that I haven't shared in quite a while. I think I got it 2 years ago. And so anyways, we start off by tracing whatever we want to put on here. And then I have this wood burning tool. Now, this one, the package is obviously open, but I saved part of it for the instructions, and it's got a variety of tips. This came from Walmart for maybe like 10 bucks, and I'm just plugging it in and letting that heat up. You do have to be careful. It does get very hot, but it is fairly simple to use. And while that was heating up, I decided to tie on a string for the ornament. I didn't seem to record that, I guess, but just tied it in a knot and then another loop because I wanted the strings to be going the right direction. Now I'm going in, I'd already put on, you have to obviously choose your tip before you heat it up, and keep your hand away from the metal. There's like a little safety guard here. There's a lot of wood burning tools. I don't know much about all of the variety and the details of them, but this one was very simple, basic, from Walmart for, I think it was $9.99. I know that was a couple years ago, so it might be a couple bucks more. But if it's something you would think you would have fun trying, I highly recommend it. And I am just going over my design. Again, you don't have to trace it, but I didn't really want to freehand it. And I have not experimented a lot with the different tips, although there are instructions on the back of the box. And it's really fun to kind of play with. I have found that if you go over it, the longer you hold the tip down, the larger you can see a couple little holes almost. So I'm trying to go around and just lightly trace it, and then I go back over it to make things thicker and darker like I want them to. It was a little bit of a challenge because this wood slice has the little rings of the wood on it, and so it was textured. But either way, it's a lot of fun. You can use it on any wood, and I just thought this was something fun to do. I've only used it a couple times prior, but it has been at least a year probably since I pulled it out, and I don't know why, because it's really fun to use. So, you know, even if you don't want to spend a lot of money on big tools and big gadgets, but you like creating and crafting, this might be a really good piece to kind of start your journey of branching out. And it's not a large investment. And, you know, get it, take it out of the package, and careful with the packaging. And if you need to, you can return it, you know, if you don't end up liking it. And I did also decide to put in the year because I think it's fun to keep, you know, track of the ornaments that you're making. And then I decided to do the other side because why not? And I have this little deer rub-on transfer that a friend had given to me, and it has a little wreath around the neck. This transferred very easily. I'm just using a popsicle stick to transfer this. And I definitely recommend experimenting with rub-on transfers. I wish Dollar Tree came out with more of them. They really don't come out with many. It's been a long time since I've seen anything new, but there's a lot of variety online, on Amazon, and along with like IOD and other, I can't remember the names off the top of my head. I didn't want to add too much embellishment on this one because the deer is just so adorable that I didn't want to detract from that. But I did feel like a little something else was needed, so I am just taking a little dotting tool from the Dollar Tree, but you could use the end of a paintbrush as well. I do love this dotting tool for so many reasons. I often use it for reasons it's not intended, but I am just putting little white dots around the border. It's not perfect. This is sped up a little bit, but I didn't take too long on it because I didn't want to obsess over it. Like, everything's not perfect, exact. It looks nice, but it looks homemade, and I absolutely love that look. So that is all I did for this side. I love how this ornament came out. Let me know what you guys think about it. Do you use rub-on transfers? Have you tried a wood burning tool? Do you think that is something that you might be open to trying in the future? I like to keep things simple and budget friendly, but it doesn't mean that you can't try out some new products from time to time. We are going to make one more ornament in this video, and for this one we need a shape of a wreath. So I am just cutting out of cardstock a wreath shape, a circle with the center cut out. This does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be a firm cardstock. I mean, something thicker than paper would be good, but I just was using what I had, and it doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to be covering it all up. This will just help us kind of get started and give us a base to, begin the whole craft with. If you are new to my channel, I just want to say hello and welcome. My name is Leanne, and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs on this channel. And if you are not yet subscribed, I would love it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button before you leave. Now, I have done many different crafts with puzzle pieces, one other just this year, but I've done many in the past. Oh, I'm going to trim that up again. But I have a puzzle that I just picked up from the Dollar Tree, and it had a lot of pieces, and I've used it for many, this might be my 4th or 5th project I've made with it. Before we go to the puzzle pieces, I decided to attach my string for the hanger of our ornament. That way we could glue over that to just kind of help secure it. And I'm just throwing down hot glue, placing these puzzle pieces. We're going to do a couple layers of the puzzle pieces to make sure that everything is covered. So I am admittedly doing this a little haphazard. I'm not making it so that there is no glue shown, because once it's painted, you really can't see it. If you want to make it neater or more particular, by all means do so. We are going to do the same thing on both sides. Ornaments, in my opinion, should be complete in one way or another on both sides, because you often can see both sides of a Christmas ornament. I'm picking off any loose string of glue strings. Sorry, had a hard time with that. And then we are going to paint this, and I'm using Fern by Waverly. It is my green color of choice the last couple years. And I'm going to use a chippy brush as well as a stencil brush to just kind of get into all of the nooks and crannies. It's going to get down to the glue. It's going to get down to any cardboard. It's going to get to the back side of any pieces from the other side. Because I don't always have patience when it comes to my crafting, I moved right from gluing to painting, and the glue was hard, but maybe not set. So I was being careful, even though it looks like I'm going crazy, but that's because I was going fast, because I didn't want to bend it. It was a little flexible still because all the hot glue wasn't fully set. I'm just kind of holding onto the string with my fingers so that I don't get any paint on the string. It just got on my fingers instead, and we're going to dry that to speed it up because, like I said, I don't have a lot of patience with my crafting. And then we are going to do the other side. If you are using a heat gun or hairdryer or something, don't have it too hot and don't hold too long, because you'll just soften that hot glue up again. I didn't think this required much of a embellishment, but I do have these little red bows from the My Little Christmas from Hobby Lobby. It's like their mini Christmas area. I use them all the time. Lots of things from that area is great. I cut off the twist tie because attaching it to the string with a twist tie kind of just made it not hang right. So cut that off and use a little bit of hot glue to put that onto the top. And that is it. Let me know what you guys think of this. I know the lighting's a little bit dark, but I thought it was nice to show it hanging on the tree because I do have my tree up now. But I love this one. So fun. I think this would be a great craft for kids, but I really enjoy working with the puzzle pieces too. For this project, you could use a block of wood, just like a scrap piece of wood if you want. But I have this sign that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Nope, I picked it up from the Dollar General. And it was $1, which they still have things for $1. But I got this when it was buy one, get one free. A lot of their Dollar General clearance is just great. I'm just going to say that. So we're going to clean it up. I'm using my heat gun to help me take off the label. And then I really couldn't get it all off, and it was very sticky. And I didn't want to use a cleaner or an oil to remove this stickiness and then stain the project. So I'm just using my little finger sander. And then for the front, I'm not going to show you all of this, but I wanted to take off the paper. But here you can see how there's like a clear plastic top part of this, and you need to remove that. And then spraying it with water and letting it soak with a paper towel and scraping it will work, but you've got to remove that plastic barrier on some signs if they've got it. Either way, blank slate, and I did sand it to finish cleaning it all off, and I got it totally clean. We're going to give this a coat of white paint. The edges, I think I did 2 coats just because it's cut. I don't know if this is like a pressed board. Words are failing me, but it doesn't really matter. The edges, even on raw wood, the edges usually need a little bit more paint in there. So we're going to give this a good coat on both sides so that it's finished. And now I have some fabric. This is from the Dollar Tree. Anything you have will work. You can even use like an old shirt. I cut off a piece the size that I thought would look good, and I am ironing this. It doesn't need to be totally smooth, but I didn't want those firm creases because it wouldn't go well with what we're doing. We're going to be making a little snowman, and this fabric is going to be the hat. You could also use like a fuzzy sock, really anything you want. And I am just going to be hot gluing this on. You determine how far down you want the hat to go, how much of it you want to be the face, all of that. Hot glued that around to keep it in good and tight. And then I'm going to use just this little trim. It's a burlap trim from the Dollar Tree that I had in my stash. I thought that would make for a good, border for the base of the hat. And again, I'm not hot gluing all the way around, just in a couple places and holding that nice and tight. And that'll be, the little detail for our hat. You can do whatever you want. Use your imagination. And then I'm going to use a little bit of that I had left, of that trim, and we're going to tie the top of our hat to kind of complete that. We'll add another embellishment at the end. I'm just kind of fluffing out the top. Now, I would prefer a fabric that wasn't fully white on the inside. I didn't really think about that ahead of time, but I worked with what I had. For the face, I've seen people use the back end of their paintbrush, and it wasn't working for me because just the dot was way too small for this project, and then I tried making it bigger, and then it just was all cockeyed. I don't know. I'm not super great at it. If you have a Cricut and you want to use a Cricut, go for it. Maybe there's stencils out there, or just be okay with it not being perfect. I'm going to use a smaller paintbrush to just keep rounding out my eyes, trying to make them look somewhat similar, but I will spare you and not share all of that with you. I was able to more successfully use the back end of the paintbrush for the mouth because those didn't need to be as big, but I did still kind of mess up. I ended up touching it up with some white paint. I tried like wiping off this one spot with thinking I got it before it was fully dry, but then it smeared. I went back in with this. Let's just say, do this how you want, care as much as you want. I should have just gone in with a permanent marker. That would have been great. Or a paint pen. I do have those and I forget about them all the time. And small paintbrushes are your friend. I went in and touched up and cleaned up as the paint dried. I also did take the back end of a little paintbrush to add little white dots inside of the snowman's eyes to just make them look, like not empty and a little bit more alive. And then a small paintbrush to draw on a carrot nose. And, don't overthink that. I did add on a snowflake to the front of the hat. I thought that was a cute addition. Let me know what you guys think of this cute little shelf sitter. Up next, we have our first nativity of the year. I love making nativity type of crafts, but I just sometimes run out of ideas. But I had these scrap pieces of dowel rod in my craft stash, so this is what I'm using. You can use any scrap piece of wood. It can be round, it can be square. You can buy the rods from Walmart. It's not expensive for a very large length, and cut it down. I already had 2 pieces that were a little too close in size, and I didn't feel like pulling out my saw. So I'm sanding it down to try to make it not exactly the same height. I'm going to paint these just in the colors that I chose, which for Joseph, I am doing Truffle by Waverly. And then for Mary, I'm going to do Lavender, which is a color I've never used before, but my mom gave me some of her paints and I was happy to use it. And just to speed it up, I'm going to use my heat gun to dry it so I can flip it over and do the other side without smearing it. I do put paint on the top, not fully, because I don't want paint to get in the way of any glue in the future, but I wanted the edges to have a little bit of paint so that you wouldn't be able to see any raw wood. And I didn't worry about painting the bottom. I found some beads in my stash of a couple different sizes. I'm using a wood glue super glue from the Dollar Tree. This is a great glue, but it doesn't really dry super quick. So I saved you the burden of watching all of my struggles, but it wasn't the best choice for a craft that I was trying to move along quickly with. I wanted something firmer than hot glue, but hot glue would work It just depends on how much your project is going to be handled, depending, it kind of depends on what you need to use. A super glue gel would have probably worked better and quicker. Anyways, I also went into my stash and found some scraps to make some clothing for our characters, our people here. And this was actually burlap, a bag of some kind from the Dollar Tree. See, there's the handles, but I'm just cutting out a little scrap and we're gonna make a head covering for Mary. And I'm just using a little bit of hot glue and very carefully wrapping this around. I want it to look like it is draping kind of naturally, but obviously it's not going to drape. So little bits of glue, but not gluing the whole way around. And I'm just folding and gluing until it looks, how I think it should. I did look up online just some pictures of like simple nativities or wood nativities, just to kind of give me some inspiration. I was like, how far down should it go? What looks, I don't know. It just helps sometimes to have an image to look at to give you some suggestions. But don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be perfect. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hitting that like button is such an easy way to help out my channel, help out this video. It lets YouTube know that people are enjoying it, and it makes them more likely to share it with others. I appreciate all of the support that I have from so many of you. I've had some good channel growth this year, and I just really appreciate all of the support. I went into my stash and found some burlap for Joseph. I did double layer this because it was a little too sheer. And then I'm going to just make a little circle. It kind of went out of frame here, but I just tied it into a knot, making a little circle to attach on top of Joseph's head. And I just used a little bit of glue here and there to help hold that on. If you've made it to this point in my video, I would love it if you would leave me a star emoji of any kind that you can find down in the comments. I appreciate any comment, any engagement. That helps out my channel a lot, but it is fun to see kind of who might still be sticking around, because I know not everyone watches the whole video, and I appreciate however much you watch it, but it does help me out when you watch it all. So if you're still here, leave me a star emoji down below. And then for baby Jesus, I just took a smaller bead and some more scrap fabric that I had, and I'm going to hot glue it closely around the bead. Obviously, for all of these, I did it in a way that we were covering up the holes in the beads. And this one I'm going to just do more closely because I want, baby Jesus is wrapped and swaddled, and so you want just kind of something tight there. And then I'll just use extra fabric to kind of create where like the body would be, and then just kind of gluing that to help hold that all together. I hadn't really finished placing Mary's cloak where I wanted it because I needed to I wasn't sure, and so I was like, I'll come back to it. So as I was seeing how they were going to look together, that kind of helped me decide what to do here. And then I'm just going to hot glue Mary and Joseph together. That's just kind of how I chose to do it. And press that together. Make sure you let that glue hold, cool down a little bit before you let go. Now this did make it so that their bases weren't exactly flat, they were leaning in, but it works out fine. And then I realized that I made baby Jesus too long. It just didn't look proportionate. So I cut off some of the swaddling clothes, use a little bit more hot glue, and then we're just going to hot glue him to the front of Mary and Joseph. And I do take a little piece of twine and tie that around just to make sure everything is held together really well. I don't want baby Jesus falling at any point. That would be very unfortunate. I thought it would be fun to add on a star to the back of them. Just kind of, I know this isn't a fully accurate depiction, but it's like the nativity tells like a whole story in one scene. So yeah, baby Jesus isn't 2 or 3. I think it was 3 by the time the wise men got to him. I know all of that, but the star just kind of encompassing everything together to make one complete depiction is kind of the goal. And then I thought it'd be nice to give a staff to Joseph. And I had this wire hanger that had come off of something that I took apart, and I've been keeping it because I like to keep all those bits and pieces because you never know. And it's not going to be a smooth, perfect staff because it's a pretty stiff ribbon or wire, but I'm using my tools to bend it and then trim it. And I'm going to attach that to Joseph. And then I decided I needed to cut off the twine that I wrapped them in because it would add an additional security for the staff. So we're going to cut that off. We'll just tie on another one in a second. A little dab of hot glue on the side, and then the string to just the twine to just kind of secure that in a little bit more. Now these dowels could stand up on their own if you wanted them to, but I just felt like it wasn't as stable as I would like it to be. So I decided to find a base for it. And I have this little wood slice, and I'm going to use more of that glue to attach that to the bottom, and then we'll call it good. I do love how this one came out. Let me know what you guys think down below. I enjoy including crafts that do represent the reason for the season. Sometimes I just have a hard time coming up with new ideas. And so I just kind of wait until I have those new ideas and then I share them with you. But let me know what you guys think down below about this one. Would you try to make this as well? Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new, and leave me a comment down below telling me which one of these was your favorite. I also have another video linked here for you if you are interested in some more Christmas fun. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.